Welcome to the Builders of Authority podcast, a show committed to helping you build authority for your brand. In the realm of business and personal branding, authority stands as a cornerstone. Authority isn't built overnight, it's built over time. So join us as we build something remarkable together. And now, here's your host, Adam McChesney.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Builders of Authority podcast. Our title sponsor for the podcast is Go High Level, also known as GHL. GHL is the first ever all-in-one platform that will give you the tools, resources, and support you need to succeed and crush your marketing goals. Personally, I've used this software since 2020, and it's been a game changer for my business and our clients. If you are looking to level up your CRM and marketing game, then this is the platform to use. You can find a link for a free and extended 30-day trial with tons of Builders of Authority bonuses in the show notes, so take advantage of this opportunity to adopt GHL's amazing software and grow your business. Today, we have another in-person episode. Today's guest and I have been connected online for a little over a year. Earlier this year, we had the opportunity to meet in person at my office and talk some business. Since then, he came to our BOA Live event back in June, and he had me swing by Adventure Unknown a couple months later. After that, I ended up joining Adventure Unknown, which has been an incredible experience, and he's a key influential person up there as well, a great person to know. We've been working and collaborating on some awesome stuff as well, which more on that to come. My guest today is Matthew Fleshman. He is the founder of The Detail Shop, which we'll talk about here today, as well as OTB Social Media. He's a content creator, though, one of the best I've ever seen, and known as the Car Dad, a podcast host, dad, entrepreneur, and much more. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's I don't know that I'm the best, on content creation. I mean, that's
one of the best.
That's nice, but I appreciate that.
Well, I love the way in which you and I kind of think a lot of hey, let's not do everything. Let's do the stuff that's actually working. And we've had conversations with the same people that want to just throw money at stupid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, no, just pick up your phone, start making content, and go.
The best advice I ever heard, it's from a podcast. It was called Concrete. I think it's Danny Jones, but it was Danny Jones podcast. And he was talking about the most important thing is just make content and post it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be terrible in the beginning, right? But it's just about going through the process.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about your story.
Yeah. So, my story is unique, I think in some ways. So I started off life, as a firefighter, okay? And detailing was always a side hustle, right? Firefighters only work 10 days a month, right? So you always had a side gig. And I started detailing cars when I was 15, right? And it was a passion of mine. In 2014, unfortunately, while running an EMS call, I was actually hit by a car. Significant spinal cord injury into my neck, low back, and I was out for about 5 years. And unfortunately, when I came back, I wasn't able to be a fireman, right? So, here I am in 2019 trying to pull myself out of the ashes of what my life was at the time, right? I mean, I had been out of work for 5 years, financially exhausted, and detailing was my outlet, to be able to bring it back. So, I started detailing cars again. And in 2020, I started understanding that, things were changing. And I know that seems crazy. That's only 5 years ago. But literally, for people who may not have been on social media, I mean, they may have been on Facebook or TikTok or whatever it was called back in the day. But that's really when the video reels for Facebook, Instagram, TikTok really became popular, right? We started moving to short form. And so I knew that with the ability to try to make videos, that might be a way to market my company, right? So like everybody else, I got the phone out and made these horrible videos and just started posting, right? You post forever, okay? And, I finally, after I think a year, and I'll remember this to this day, I had posted, it was Thanksgiving, and my wife's best friend was over, and she had something done to her car and needed this quick little section polished, right? Go out, polish it, make the video, post it. This is 10 o'clock at night on Thanksgiving, right? Going out to teach my daughter, who at the time was getting her learner's permit. Okay, she was going to take her test, I think, the next day. So we're out practicing. Wake up the next morning, look at my phone, and the video had 1.5 million views, right? I mean, I had 400 followers. I think the most, I got a couple hundred views on stuff, And I realized that at that time, the power of social media, it's that's 1 million. I mean, I got nervous, right? Panicked.
Yeah.
1 million people, there's comments, because just how it is.
Yeah.
And you panic, right? But I realized there, at that moment, there was something there that I could do something more with. That, I have these two companies, the detail shop and OTB social media, and it's collaborating of the two is ultimately what's driving the success, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't know what I was doing, in the very beginning. I knew what I was doing detailing, but on the marketing, and I really didn't know.
Yeah.
And I think, for people that, are business owners or they want to become a content creator, they just don't understand really what it's going to take, the amount that, like, it's a real job.
Yeah.
I mean, content creation, and we talk like we see each other at the club sometimes on Fridays, just literally, you know, bulk making content for the
Yeah.
week,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
Um, but again, I found it was a benefit. So what happened from there and really kind of started this journey, which kind of leads us up to today, was um, obviously follower count gained, and I started realizing, okay, I got to jump on live and start practicing. But eventually, as my social media accounts started to grow, I think I was up to maybe 20,000 followers. People were starting to reach out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, would you do a video for us to, whatever the shine spray is,
Yeah.
right? But the bigger thing is other detailers across the country and honestly the world, started to reach out to say, hey, maybe we could do a collaborative live together, right? Or if
Mhm.
you're ever up in my neck of the woods, stop in. And so, kind of fast forward to, kind of throwing in the livelihood of an entrepreneur. My business was always in my garage at my house. A lot of detailers,
Yeah.
they detail out of their garage. That's where most people start,
Yeah.
right? Um, we moved into a new house, and unfortunately, there was I always have always worked on really cool cars, right?
Mm.
And some neighbor was upset that unfortunately I had to start one of these cars at like 9 o'clock at night. And actually, I didn't even start. I coasted it down the hill, started at the bottom of the hill, right? Well, she called the county, and that was the end of the business being in my shop, right?
Mm.
And, at the time, we were doing okay, but it was like, I didn't have the money to really go out and open a shop like I'm doing now, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to punt, you know. And fortunately, because of my social media, I was able to do some collaborative work and agreements with some local companies here in St. Louis who needed someone to come in and help them in their detailing. It was actually a classic car company. They needed really someone to set a shop up for them, hire and train people, help with social media. And it's in my wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
And so, I did that for about a year and a half with two different companies. And the key though is I when people started reaching out to me is that there was a guy in Chicago. His name's Jay. And he said, "Hey, I want help with my social media." Right? He goes, I know it's important, but I don't know how to do it. He goes, "Can I pay you to come up?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not. Why don't I just come up and we see where this goes?"
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, and this is why I tell people always talk to everyone because you never know what an opportunity is going to lead to, right?
Mhm.
So, of course, come to find out, he happens to be neighbors next to this very large company called Cannonball Garage. Okay, so if you're into McLarens or into cannonballing, like there is an actual, like the movie, there was Cannonball Run.
Mhm.
There's a real cannonball that actually still takes place to this day.
That's awesome.
Okay, and the owner of the shop, which does McLarens and all these really cool stuff, and coincidentally also collaborates with massive YouTube influencers.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
if you're car people and you follow Tavares, she bought a yellow flooded P1 McLaren. That was up there, so a lot of these guys up there. So that helped just again, bumped the next level up of we kind of talk about authority, right? Like,
Mhm.
the more you continue to do it, started off, here we did something real small, maybe one video or two videos, and then our follower count grew. And then now a bigger company wants you to do something, right? These little baby steps.
Yep.
And these baby steps, just if you're working at it, just keep growing,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's something that a lot of people have to understand, whether they're a content creator, whether it's they're marketing for themselves, or trying to build a personal brand. It's going to be a slow climb.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's going to happen fast. And everything that you do before it is that builder. Now,
Mm.
there are people that get lucky and go viral,
Mhm.
right? But I would tell you, most of those people that go viral, it's not really business related,
Yeah.
and for people that don't know, it's way harder to monetize yourself online than you think. I mean,
Yeah.
I know everyone thinks all I got to do is just have a TikTok account and sell a few things and make a couple videos and I'm going to be rich.
Yeah.
It does not work that way,
Yeah.
right? Um, but yeah, it's just that the time it takes to do that. So as things were progressing and my follower counts grew, and I started really being able to do some larger collaborative projects with national brands at this point.
Mhm.
It wasn't just, do a little thing and we'll send you some free product. It's like, we're going to pay you,
Yeah.
right? We would potentially be willing to enter into a marketing agreement with you to do collaborative projects for us,
Yeah.
And I think the importance with that is, that's, I think, where everybody wants to get to,
Mm-hmm.
to where they're truly getting paid
Yep.
to be online, be it from, and that's the other thing is the days of YouTube money and just straight, CPM is gone.
Yeah.
It just doesn't exist,
Yeah.
right? To monetize yourself online, you really have to be invested like it's a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just a huge component that people miss.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said so many things there that like I preach all the time is everybody thinks, hey, I can go viral and immediately take off and make money, or I can make money doing relatively nothing. For me, I've been doing this for 4 years now. I just got my first endorsement deal earlier this year, but it was after I already built something successful as well. So the content for me was never about going viral or making money on the actual thing. It was, how can I actually do it to grow my business? Whereas other people are like, no, I just want to be an influencer.
Yes.
And that, I mean,
Yes.
that's a dime a dozen.
Correct. And you bring up a very, very good point, and I say this all the time, especially to business owners. You're not making content for views and likes. While those are important components, right? We need engagement.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's, are you making content that's converting or making someone perform a task, i.e., call now, book now, schedule an appointment, and then convert that into a sale? And the problem, I think that's the huge disconnect with business owners that say, oh, I've done Facebook ads and they don't work, or I've done a Google business ad and it doesn't work, or I do social media and it doesn't work. And then you look at their content. Trust me, I mean, you know how it is. People reach out to us every day, right? All the time. You try to help. Maybe you take a look at their stuff, and you look at their content. It's like, well, no wonder, right? I mean, you're trying to get people to follow you like it's a TikTok channel.
Yeah.
That just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a misalignment from like what people like want from a platform standpoint versus what they actually need to, right?
True,
So it's like,
true.
hey, like if you're a roofing company or you're a landscaper or you're whatever, it's like you going viral on TikTok. Let's just say you do hit 1 million views. It's going to be other landscapers. It's going to be probably industry specific product stuff. It's going to be all those things that like could be of value, but you really need a couple more leads to pay your bills this month.
Correct.
So like,
Correct.
not going to necessarily equate with what you actually need versus what you want.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that kind of comes into, we talk about with entrepreneurs, and trying to be successful and the reasons why they fail. And I just think it's that just misunderstanding of what it really is going to take and an understanding. But no, totally agree. Content, I think, is king. I am an absolute firm believer that I would rather have, when I say quality content, I'm not talking about highly produced content. I mean content that is produced, at least in my case, either to grow my personal brand or my business.
Yeah.
That results in an action.
Yeah.
So it's planning it out and thinking of it versus just posting something because people, I got to be in the algorithm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's true. And there was a time when it was like, if you didn't post 5 reels a day and 6 posts and 25 stories, you'll never get seen, right?
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore.
Yeah. It's changed. So how do you plan content?
How do I plan content?
Yeah.
I like to plan, for me, I like to plan content around a week, about a theme. So for clients that I advise, typically the reason why we do this, it helps them kind of structure, and even myself kind of structure and focus my task for the week.
Yep.
Execution is everything. We can make all these plans in the world, but is it really deliverable?
Sure.
Right. So for me, I will choose a topic or a theme for the week is generally how it works, because for a business standpoint, it's helping that, that kind of slow drip of information over the week. Most of the social media people are going to do is going to be short form anyway, 3 minutes or less. It's really hard to sell your product and your business and build your brand in, 30-second to 3-minute videos one time a week.
Yeah.
So if it's a particular product, it's a building of that product. I also do that because I have Amazon affiliate, right? So it's a good way to showcase those products and services throughout the week that we sell, online. And then really just sitting down and doing the work, planning a specific time and date if you're not making content daily. I think, for me, like for instance, at the detail shop, it's a service business, whether it's a car, any type of service-based business, it's going to be the same. It's sometimes hard to shoot content a week at a time because a lot of it surrounds an activity or an event or a product or a situation, right? That only takes place.
Yep.
And what I encourage a lot of service-based businesses that do to that is get yourself some microphones. You can get yourself microphones for $80 that are quality, lapel lavalier mics.
Yep.
Get yourself a tripod.
Mhm.
Get yourself 2 phones.
Mhm.
And even if it's just time-lapsing yourself or just putting yourself out there and just talking while you're doing it.
Yeah.
That's usually how you have to do it. You just have to be prepared ahead of time, right? So the stuff's got to be set up. You'll see once our shop's open, there's going to be tripods usually set up all the time,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's just moving it around.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one thing that so many people, and I even struggle with myself. Like I started recording like my sales calls, my client calls, all those different things
Yeah.
because, even as someone that's a content creator, like I do run out of content all the time too, because I'm producing so much, doing so many different things. But for the average person, they're like, I don't know how I'm going to go do this. It's like when and they struggle to like get in front of camera. Well, just have it be to the side while you're doing stuff.
Yep.
And then you can cut it up 17 different ways. And so people overcomplicate all of this stuff.
They do. And for business owners, hey, podcast. If you are truly crunched on time,
Yeah.
and a podcast works for your business platform, I mean, it really is the most efficient way to make content.
Yeah.
It truly is, and it's pretty cost effective too.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other thing is just understanding what content is needed for your business, right? It's a plan.
Yeah.
If you figure, okay, I need 30 videos a month,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you do, maybe you don't. Some businesses don't need that much.
Mm-hmm.
You got to start determining, break it down by the day. How many do I need per day?
Yeah.
How many do I need per week?
Mhm.
And sticking to that calendar.
Yeah.
And this consistency with content posting is ultimately really the key.
Oh yeah.
You can't do it for 2 weeks, go on vacation, and then come back.
Yeah.
And that's where the planning tools are. So, those are kind of the bigger things that I do. So it varies by industry too.
Yeah. And so when you're working with a new business, like what are some of the, I mean, obviously we probably already talked about some, but what are some of the biggest like struggles they have? Is it they're not getting started and overthinking it, or is it they're producing just a bunch of aimless stuff that isn't hitting the head?
I think I think the biggest thing is because fear drives most people's decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, when they're getting ready to post stuff, they're so fearful of negative feedback.
Yeah.
That's just included in social media. Okay, you just have to reserve that fact.
Yeah.
So that's keeping them from doing that.
Yeah.
If we can get them to start making content, the first problem is usually they want to make faceless content.
Yeah.
They're afraid to get in front of the camera
Mm-hmm.
and talk to the customer.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not saying you can't be successful with faceless marketing, but if you're really trying to organically grow and build a community
Mm-hmm.
around your business, you need to be in front of that camera, talking with the audience, talking with those potential customers, explaining what it is that you do. Hopefully you can bring your customer in too and then let them explain
Yeah.
why they used you,
Yep.
what problem they have, how you solve that problem, and potentially what it costs,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just a pro tip, if you put a price out there, half the people are going to say it's too high and half the people are going to say it's too low. So just post the price.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's what people really need to be doing, especially in the service industry.
Yeah.
And that we talk about translate to Google,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
your Google business profile.
Yep.
And I think that's probably, again, depending on the business, before they even delve into social media, I'd actually tell you, do you even have a Google business profile plan set up, right?
And using it.
And using it,
Yeah.
because ultimately, I say this all the time when people, well, why would I do that? Well, how would you find an electrician today?
Yeah.
Oh, and then they stop.
Yeah.
I Google it, right?
Yeah.
They get it.
Yeah.
So it starts to make sense.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit. I know obviously like the shop is the big thing right now that you're kind of opening. So talk to us about how you get, obviously like you mentioned, kind of punting it back then to going to the shop now. Talk to us about kind of like how you got to where we're at right now.
Yeah. So kind of the continuation of the story. So kind of at the end of 22 into 23, I wanted to open up my own shop, but I let some people who I trusted, and not that they gave me bad advice, just saying, listen, they didn't feel the economy was real strong.
Mm-hmm.
So it scared me and I stopped.
Yeah.
Fast forward to the beginning of this year when I said, okay, this is going to be the time, right? The challenge I had is I was short on money.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't have the cash,
Mm-hmm.
right? And for everyone that tells you that it doesn't take money to make money to start a business. They're just lying to
Yeah.
you. I'm not saying that you can't get started in something small, but if you're
Right.
trying to open a brick and mortar
Yeah.
location with employees and inventory, you have to have cash,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And my mistakes all this year, well, about the last year, about trying to find funding is number one, I just assumed because I had a large social media account, everybody just would want to work with me, right? Why
Mm-hmm.
would you not want to work? I got 25 million views a month. I got 300,000 followers,
Mm-hmm.
right? They don't care.
Yeah.
Bankers don't care. Okay. Because
Mm-hmm.
social media doesn't pay their bills.
Yeah.
And so I understood that all of a sudden, I don't really need money, but I need a partner,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because money is important and there's plenty of people that can give you money, but you're going to need partners to help you through this process.
Yep.
And I think the biggest part of it comes down to business planning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's so many businesses that open and fail because they really just didn't have any idea what it was going to take.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So I through just meeting people and really kind of putting myself out there
Mm-hmm.
and just having literally beating the streets and shaking hands and meeting people and talking about my idea, eventually I found two partners who were like, we totally see what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
because they were able to understand that component. But the key is before when I was explaining to people what my vision is it was this vision, and we all have it, in our head, and it's really hard to put that on paper
Yeah.
because we've thought about it over and over. We've dreamed about it. We
Yep.
know how everything's going to work, but you got to communicate that to people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Once I was able to put that intelligently on a piece of paper
Yes.
and then intelligently talk about that to someone,
Mm-hmm.
now they were interested,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was because of fortunately, I understood all my previous failures
Yeah.
that came before and learned from them,
Mm-hmm.
and then reached out and started asking for help,
Sure.
and that changed everything.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit the head on the nail there, or the nail on the head there with the aspect of we all have these ideas,
Mhm.
and I heard Sean Whalen talk about this recently, where like ideas are worthless
They
in
are.
all reality until the action is being taken. But when we have an idea, so many of us think we have to like grunt work through it in order to make it happen. We don't realize that funding is out there, that business
Mhm.
partners are out there. But then we get so frustrated when we poorly explain those ideas.
Absolutely.
Business, as you mentioned, like social media doesn't pay bills. All these different things, they don't pay the bills. But what actually pays the bills is the result of the action that's being taken when you can say, hey, I have this business plan here. I have
Mhm.
these forecasts and projections. I know we
Mhm.
were talking about that a couple weeks ago. I
Mhm.
have these things that now make sense. Now conversations can be had. Now partnerships can be made where so many people are like, why don't you trust me? Why don't you do this?
Ugh.
Give me this. Give me it's worthless, in all reality. Like,
It is.
and that's a thing that I had to get over as well from like an ego standpoint of like, but I thought you knew who I was,
Mhm.
and now I'm on the other side of it when people are asking me too, no differently than it's been asked of you,
Right.
and you're like, okay, now it makes sense.
Do you know how many times that conversation of that what you said, "Well, I thought you knew me," this type of thing, "Why wouldn't you?"
Yeah,
Do you know how many times I've had that conversation in my head
yeah,
after a phone call or a meeting, and I just cannot understand why people just don't think this isn't the greatest that's ever happened,
yeah, yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
And look, that's part of being an entrepreneur. We think we are foolproof. And I'm not saying fail-proof,
Full
foolproof,
for
right?
yeah.
But it's not. There's just so many factors that you just don't really understand,
Mhm.
especially if you've never been in business before.
Yeah.
The power of failure is just so important.
Mm.
My two partners that are investing with me specifically said, we actually will not invest in an entrepreneur who has not failed at least twice. Not once, but twice.
Yeah.
Because you now really know what pain is.
Yes.
You've been through it. You understand that no matter how good it is, and even if it's for a couple of years, it can still fail.
Mhm.
It's just that practice. And I know that sounds tough, but you know, there are people who uh, quit their comfy full-time jobs that pay every 2 weeks with PTO, vacation pay, and a lovely 401k. They quit those jobs, they drain their 401ks, mortgage their homes, and they open up a business with no plan. I mean, that's scary.
Yeah.
That is scary to me.
Mhm. I think that interesting that they said fail not once but twice, but I think there's so much power in that because I've failed this year. I've
Me
part of the
too.
story
Me
and
too.
felt like, oh my gosh, I had this thing, right? And part of it was stuff I should have done better. Part was stuff I couldn't control, but it became a failure. And for me, it was like, oh my gosh, you second guess yourself all around.
Yes.
But I've grown this new thing so much quicker in all reality, but more efficiently, more profitably, and doing it on a trajectory now where it's like, I'm going to get what I want out of this and more. It would have never happened before. And so you think, oh my God, like I think like I had in my mind, like, this is going so well, I'm never going to fail. And then it happens out of nowhere and you're like, what the hell just happened?
Yep.
But you come out on the other side with a completely different outlook on things, knowing that you are not unstoppable.
Yeah, no, I think one thing that business owners need to understand is that the people around you are failing all the time. They may not be public about it.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I overshare, maybe I shouldn't overshare, but I think it's important for people just to understand that I have failed this year. You have failed this year. We're very open about that, you know, and it's going to happen. We're going to fail again.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a part of the process. And if you're not willing to go through that, it's not for the weak at the faint at heart. You know, when it comes at huge personal expense.
Yeah.
The time and money and energy we have to expend, you know, to really keep things moving every day. It's just not for most people, and that's okay.
Well, and I think too, like the pandemic, social media has really like opened up doors for way more people than ever before, and so I think at some point in 2025, call it whatever it is, the economy, anything else that's happening out there, I think you're going to see a massive exodus of people going back and trying to find a job because it's getting too hard. The money isn't coming as easy as it once was.
This is probably an unpopular opinion. There are too many entrepreneurs out there. And look, that is not meant to be mean at people.
Yes.
Okay. But for instance, I'm trying to hire people right now, and I've been getting most of my phone calls are from other business owners.
Yes.
Who are just like, look, it's done. I'm over. I'm looking for a job.
Yep.
You know, and that's rough. I get it, but again, it comes down to though, and you know, when those guys call, you know, you start talking to them. It's like, well, what's going on with your business, right? And then you look at their socials and they haven't posted anything. They look at Google Business and they haven't.
Like, I know why you're struggling.
Right? Do you run any? No. You know, you're not putting the work in.
Yeah.
Right. You're just not putting the work in. Being an entrepreneur is probably one of the most difficult things that you have to do ultimately, because when it comes down to it, it's about, and you talked about this earlier, it's about execution and executing every day. Right. And that's hard to wake up every day and have to execute to eat. Right. I mean, that's like, I have coaches. I know you have coaches. This morning, what are we executing today? Right. And is it real? Like, you know, just because you think you can do 15 things a day, you really can't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, just planning and executing is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah. Well, I think like I was looking back, I used to like think, oh my gosh, this is like the toughest day I've ever had working in corporate America. Like didn't hit my quota, or, you know, my boss is asking me to do this. I'm like, wow, that would probably be like the easiest day I would have ever had as an entrepreneur, like time and time again, because even when things are going really, really well, it's like for the ones that are like doing this the right way. Right. And I think there's so many entrepreneurs that are out there that do things that, whether or not they just don't care about their reputation or their brand or all those different things, they're just like going day by day and like, okay, cool. You know, they just brush it off. Whereas like people like ourselves and people that we're connected to and we value their opinions, it's like, no, like you have to not have every day as if your back is against the wall, but you need to operate from that mindset that like this could go away. And I look at it as not playing defense, as playing offense, so I don't have to go on defense.
Correct.
And that's where most people are like, I'll just play defense.
People, I think, really take for granted walking into their job. The lights are on, the computers work, right? The air conditioner's working, it's landscaped, everyone's showing up, the office supplies are there, the coffee's there, right? And all the things are coming in. Somebody had to work really hard to make that happen for you. And so, yes, your worst day at work is probably the easiest day for an entrepreneur. Yeah. Because ultimately, all we're guaranteed today to do is spend money. Yeah. You know, I said this the other day. They're like, "How you doing?" I'm like, burning money today. You know, I'm like, spend another $5,000 today, and we aren't even open for 2 more weeks, right? You know, and So the cash burn,
Mm-hmm.
God, cash burn. That's what eats most businesses up. They just have no real understanding of how much money it's really going to take to not only get open, stay open, and
Mm-hmm.
stay open for a period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a grind, but it's one I don't think I could do differently right now. I don't think I was, it's been it'd be a year where you start to think, should I just go back and get a job? Should I just go back and do something? Like, I think I'm pretty much unemployable at this point.
So I think you'll agree to this. Most people become entrepreneurs that this is their mindset.
Mm-hmm.
They're a high performer at their job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
they are because they're motivated people.
Mm-hmm.
Everything though they see in their company is usually pretty negative.
Yeah.
That guy's an idiot
Yeah.
and we are stupid and why aren't we doing this and why do that? And we get to a point of frustration.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm talking about myself.
Yeah.
All right. And you're like, I can do this better.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm going to go out on my own. I'm going to do it better. And you go out there to do it on your own and you realize, holy cow. Maybe something I was complaining. It wasn't them being, it's like, that's just what's going on.
Yeah.
You touched about the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
My first, other than the detailing business, my first kind of introduction to entrepreneurship was actually back in the late 90s when my parents actually opened up a Quiznos franchise. They actually had 3 locations. And I was, a part of that and really seeing how that worked. And, I told somebody the other day, I go, we never had a problem hiring people. Right. And like we were, at the time, I think minimum wage was $5.25.
Mm-hmm.
We were paying $8 an hour back then. So it wasn't, we were paying well and doing those things. We never had problems keeping people. I have, I think, talked to 45 people and still haven't even set an interview, right? Not because not because they don't even have a remote level of ability to even perform a task. And I'm not saying I'm not willing to like train a person, but would I potentially have to ever work on the weekends? Well, we might do events. I can't do it weekends. What time? 5. Well, can we close it? People just don't want to work. And the mindset has changed. And you talked about this is the time when we think about going back and getting a job, but that's just it. There are so many people from the pandemic because they sat around and saw people on YouTube or TikTok just saying it's easy to make money.
Yeah.
And thought I can do this, or they can open up their own business.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're in this situation where people that have businesses can't hire anyone because they're all whatever they are today.
Yep.
It's hard for the businesses that are actually hiring and keeping people going because Steve over here is doing what we do for $150 for $85.
Mm-hmm.
Because, by the way, he doesn't have insurance and rent and a business license and, benefits for them, all the things that we do.
Uh-huh.
And Steve's going to be gone in 6 months too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's hurting business B.
Mm-hmm.
And you deal with a lot of service contract companies, and it's a huge problem right now, industry wide.
Mm-hmm.
So there's big, huge challenges right now, and also just people have just, I think for the first time in America, they really have. And I'm not saying we haven't valued our families, but we used to really be a country that valued hard work. Like we were proud to work hard, and people now are more proud to focus on their families. And look, that's great, work-life balance. But good luck being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's tough out there. What are you most excited about? Kind of building the shop again, and kind of like the future of everything.
Yeah. So for me, it's ultimately really being able to connect with a community of people. Okay, the car community is a pretty interesting community because in the car culture, whether you're a male or female, black, white, it doesn't matter. We're all just the same people.
Yep.
I laugh. You go to these big shows and it's just this melting pot of people, right? Who are all just hanging out, having a good time, and talking about cars.
Yeah.
And part of that community are these detailers, right? And the advent of TikTok and Instagram has given a lot of people thought that they could do these amazing things, and they're really causing problems in the detailing industry. And so my hope is that, one, because we will be ultimately offering some training, some in-person trainings, both at the shop and then, of course, classroom training over at Adventure Unknown, which is one of the reasons why I joined there, right? And the hope is that we can bring factory representatives in, which we will be doing, and really showing people kind of a more traditional approach of how to detail cars. But more importantly, a bigger focus is going to be on business training.
Yeah.
in the service industry, there's plenty of tech classes to complete services, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no one teaches you how to run that business,
Yeah.
how to truly set up a Google business profile and verify the location
Mm-hmm.
and make sure it appears on Apple Maps and Google Maps.
Yep.
Like my business part, the shop that we have, there's actually two businesses. We have the front, the back half is Eurocharge. They're a specialty tuner, awesome place to stop by and see them. They don't appear though on. We were talking about his Google business. Where he's like, I'm working on my reviews, man. I don't know what's going on. We looked, you can't even find him on Google, right? So a couple of simple fixes,
Yeah.
and we'll get it done. But that's just one prime example.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's being able to help these guys understand a profit and loss statement, cost per use.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be a game changer, and I really hope we, because it's a team of people, truly are going to be able to help real small grassroots business owners
Mm-hmm.
become successful. And when I say successful, not buy you a job,
Yeah.
build a business, have the income that you want, hopefully scale that business and sell it to do the next one. That's the goal. So I'm hugely excited for that. Another thing that I'm really excited is that I really planned out services no matter what people's budgets were. Detailing falls into a couple categories. It is service, but it's typically a luxury item. People just are paying for convenience. But unfortunately, there are people that do reach out because they have a problem with their car that's not taken care of at a body shop, right? Maybe they spilt a gallon of chili in the backseat of their car, right? And they don't want to ruin the carpet. It needs to be extracted. Or they have cloudy headlights. So we've tried to provide services that meet everyone's criteria because let's face it, the economy's not great.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you can bring in a quality level of service at a price point people can afford, and you do a good job and you market yourself and you're friendly, you should be successful.
Yeah.
So those are the big things that I'm looking for. So big things are coming, and there's going to be some really interesting national collaborations. And some really cool people within our industry that'll be coming to the shop that I'm going to be probably most proud of, because it's really a combination. And we talked about this at your BOA live. The reason why that one was the level of guests that you had at that was such a high level was because of everything that you did before. Was made it so that those people would want to work with you. So for me, I guess my biggest achievement is that just some of the things that I've done, it's all my hard work. Finally, after like 3 years.
Coming to fruition.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's what I'm most proud of.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm excited to have a front row seat and watch this thing unfold. But thanks so much for coming on. This was an awesome episode. Where can people stay in touch with you?
So on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you can find me at the Car Dad, either at the Car Dad or at the Car Dad STL. Probably the easiest thing though, Facebook, Matthew J. Fleshman. Very simple. I got a link tree. It's all there. You want to stop by? I'm usually going to be at the shop here coming up next week, 11719 Baptist Church Road in South County, right down the street from you.
Yes, sir.
If those bay doors are open and you see me, I encourage everyone to just stop in and say hello.
That's awesome. I'll definitely have to do that. And we'll put all that stuff in the show notes so that way you can stay connected with Matthew and follow his journey. Thank you again to our amazing title sponsor, Go High Level. Without them, we aren't able to produce the quality of content or have amazing guests on like we did today. Check out a free and extended 30-day trial in the show notes. Make sure as well to leave us a 5-star review, making a big push for that, and it definitely helps move the needle. Remember, authority isn't built overnight. It's built over time.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We sure do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. This way you'll get notifications as new episodes become available. If you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. We sure do appreciate it. Until next time, friends,